reasons I decided to do this topic about family group responsibilities is because as a genealogist, I speak to a lot of family members. I've been doing this for many years, and I hear some complaints sometimes. Oh, my group leader doesn't want to tell me what's going on. Oh, I can't get the families to give me their documents or their monies or whatever. So what I thought is, we give a lot of information to the land-grant descendants, and there's some things that we should cover just to help you guys organize your family groups. So, so this is what I have kind of put together. First, let's decide, what is a family group leader? A family group leader is someone usually within your family that the family chooses to represent them, whether it's to discuss something with an attorney, whether to discuss something with the genealogist. It's the person that's going to be organizing the whole, the family unit with documents and things like that. So that's who I'm going to be calling the family group leader. This individual should be someone that, one, is of good character, trustworthy, honest, amicable, and diligent. Two, that they have the time and abilities to perform the task at hand. It's not easy to be a family group leader, so we'll discuss that as well, but they need to have the time and abilities to be able to do that. And three, they need to be willing to take on the responsibility of being a group leader. Some of you may not realize the responsibilities that they have on their shoulders, and this is why I'm going to be speaking about this, not only so that they know and understand what they are supposed to do, but also what the family needs to do to help and support them. You should always have a second person in line for the group leader. That way they can be an assistant to them if necessary. Also, should it be necessary for your group leader to step down, another person should know everything that the group leader was doing so they could take over at any time. We need to have this. What if your group leader gets sick? Or what if your group leader, something happens to your group leader and they decide that for whatever reason they just don't want to, they just can't work on it. They took on two jobs, or their job is making them to where they can't spend time with the family group documents and doing things for the family. It's good to have a second person, and that second person can also help as an assistant. So these are some things that your family should think about when they're doing the family group leaders and when they're organizing. And even though it's a family, even though it's your primo or your prima that's going to be doing this, you need to handle this formally. And I say this because it can't be too blasé. Just because they're your cousin, you don't go, oh, well, I'll send you my documents next week. No, you need to be formal. If you told that person that you're going to submit them some money or some documents or something by a certain date, you need to go ahead and do that. The reason is because they cannot do that, everything that they need to do, unless the family is doing their part. So if you've been chosen to be a family group leader, you have responsibility to your family group. One of the things is to keep them informed. We have emails, texts, phone calls, group meetings a couple of times a year. Communication is important, and that's one thing that I do hear quite often. My group leader doesn't tell me what's going on. Come on, group leaders, put everybody on a group email and just shoot one email and send it to everybody at one time. They need to know. That's why they're calling you 2 or 3 times in 1 week, because they need to know what's happening. If you don't have anything going on, tell them, nothing's happening right now. That happens. You don't have something going on with your family, with the progress in your family every single week or every single month. Sometimes it's going to take several months to have anything happen at all. So please be patient with them. And group leaders, be honest. At all times, be honest. There has been times where I have seen some group leaders, and they twist the truth a little bit because they don't want their families to get all over them. Don't do that. Be honest. If the attorney says, well, it's going to cost this much money, then that's how much it's going to cost. If I tell you I'm not going to be able to do your report till next month, then it's not going to be till next month. Be honest with your family at all times. And also, don't make all the decisions yourself. Have a meeting whenever there's an important decision that needs to be done for the group. It's good, like if you need to choose an attorney, or if you need to decide who's going to go to see a bank about a receivership or something, have a meeting before you do that. Don't take everything on yourself. Remember, you're just a leader. You're not the dictator. So let your family help decide on what you need to do. This is not your group. It's the group. You're just leading them. And ask for help too when you need it. It's an immense job to be a group leader, especially if you have a lot in your group. I mean, I know some family group leaders that only have maybe 10 people in their family units, and then I have no other ones that have over 100. So depending on your family unit, you can it can be a big job. So please, if there's people that can help, then please do so. Additionally, group leaders, please know your limits. You may not be good at research or gathering documents for your family. You may not even be good at hiring an attorney and doing land or title searches. If someone else is better within your family or within your group at a particular job, then allocate that job to them or ask for assistance. The worst thing that you can do for your family, and I'll say it again, the worst thing that you can do for your family is for you to do a bad job. It's going to cost them money, and in some cases, they may even lose some of their rights. As a last note, family members, please be patient with your family group leader. It's a thankless job, and dealing with a lot of people, especially family, can be very frustrating. When it comes to your family and family group leader, I suggest that you work together, you help each other, and you support each other. We're all in this together. And that's, I said, my speech. You want me to talk to them about? Do you want me to talk to them about the lawsuit? I do want to mention some things, just to bring some people up to date as to some of the lawsuits that have been going on. I get calls quite a bit at my office as to, well, what's going on with this land grant, what's going on with that land grant. There are things happening out there. I'm just going to give a brief summary. I know of a few things. I mean, Mr. Falcon might know a little bit more about other things, but I know we touched base with you guys on the last meeting about the Galan lawsuit. They did file for something and up in Austin, and they had put that on, what did they call that, John? What did the judge rule that? They dismissed that one, but they are going to appeal it. That was on the Galan lawsuit that Bobby Gonzalez was doing. The Andres Garcia lawsuit that was going on over in Corpus, that was concerning the Andres Garcia Cuestión. That particular one went through several courts. It actually went all the way, they appealed it all the way to the Supreme Court of Texas. The Supreme Court, it stayed there for a while. The Supreme Court of Texas refused to hear it. The reason, that was an adverse possession lawsuit. And the reason they refused to hear it was because they said of statute limitations. That was the reason, their reasoning for not hearing that case. That was, like I said, an adverse possession in which somebody took over some of the properties in the Andres Garcia lands, and the people were, some of the family were trying to come back and take over, get their mineral rights back. The Treviños, I believe there's several things going on with the Treviños, Bartolome Treviño, Ignacio Treviño, and Miss Gloria Gibney is handling some of the information as to what she's gathering for that particular family. So you may want, if you are a Treviño, you may want to talk to her about that. The Joaquin Chapa, that was the new thing that just happened recently. I guess it was about a month ago. I heard about it a couple of weeks ago, but there was a notification in the Star Town Crier from the Guiera Mineral Trust. The trustee was the Plains Capital Bank, and they had put a notification, a publication in the paper requesting for all the unknown heirs of Joaquin Chapa to come forward. Okay, they wanted to notify you that they were going to do adverse possession of 781 acres. Now, I don't know if you guys know what adverse possession is. Some of these terms can get a little legalized, and I don't know if you know what they are. But what adverse possession is, it's kind of like squatting. It's when you have property and someone comes and lives on that property, maybe even pays taxes on it, but they're there for many years, they put agriculture, they put their cattle, whatever. That's called adverse possession. They have taken possession of that land. The problem with adverse possession is you may live on that land, you may be paying taxes on that land, but you don't have title to that land. Until you have to go through certain steps to get title. And this is what the Guerra Mineral Trust was trying to do. They want title to 781 acres, which their family has been squatting or having adverse possession for several decades, okay? So what they did was they put the publication to all the unknown heirs. About 20 people filed a complaint about them, or an appeal to them. I did receive a copy of the motion that their attorney has submitted concerning that. Out of the 20 people that submitted a response, I think 3 or 4 of them had their attorneys submit it, because the publication said either contact your attorney or contact them. But the law is funny, and this is what we have to be careful of. We have to play by their rules. Think of it like a game. If you're playing football and you don't play by the rules, you get penalized or you get thrown out of the game. This is the same thing when it comes to the law. If you don't play by their rules, you're going to get penalized, or they're just going to throw it out of court. And that's kind of what happened. They submitted a response, but they didn't go through. They didn't submit the proper response to the proper people. So now the Guerra Mineral Trust people, the Plains Capital Bank, the trustee, has submitted a motion to the court, to the judge, asking that, I think it's about 16 or 17 people be dismissed, since they did not properly submit their response. So please, this is what I'm telling you is so important about that you may lose your rights. If it's worthwhile for you, this is what I'm telling you as my own personal opinion, because I'm not an attorney, okay? If it's important enough for you to file a response, then get an attorney to look at your response, or even to file it for you. The reason is because if it's done wrong, then it could be like you didn't respond at all. So please, like I said, if it's important enough for you to do that, then do it properly. Do it the correct way. But that's where that stands now. For the Chapas, there are people that are trying to fight against them taking adverse possession. There was adverse possession done on another part of the Porción by the Gutierrezes maybe about 10, 20 years ago. And what's happened is the Joaquin Chapa, I know there's a lot of Joaquin Chapa people here, but there was over 5,000 acres. And little by little in the last 100 years, people have been adverse possessing out 500 acres here, 1,000 acres there, to where it's getting pieced out. And that's happened in a lot of other cases. That's what happened in the Andres Garcia. Unfortunately, that's why you have to do the research on the title of your land. It's good to do the genealogical part, but the genealogical part just tells you who you can actually get entitlement from. You can only get entitlement direct from your bloodline. But when you start doing the title work, you need to see what happened to that property. What happened in Las Torovela? What happened in Juan Batallones Aguirre? What happened in those porciones that you have to find out? Did the family sell it? Did somebody take adverse possession on half the property? So this is the important step that you have to do to find out if you have any kind of entitlement left on your porción. But it's something that has to be done. And every porción is different. There was over 100 of them. And so what happened with one did not necessarily happen on another. So, for example, in the Matias Longoria, they partitioned that one out in 1933. So in 1933, if you were Matias Longoria, they had something for your family member at that time. But that did not happen to very many of the land grants. So it's very important that you do some research on your land grant to see where you stand, where your family stands. And so I don't know. Does anybody have questions? Yes? Good question, but let me explain to what the problem is. The State Comptroller's Office, the Unclaimed Minerals Commission that you're talking about, didn't start till, well, the State Comptroller's Office, not the Unclaimed Minerals Commission, didn't start till 1986. That's when all the unclaimed minerals funds started going over there. So anything prior to that, then it was up to the counties and the oil companies to distribute the unknown monies to a receiver, which generally was a bank. And so there was a lot of counties out there that were holding money in receivership. Now, in 1986, when the state started taking over this, they were supposed to submit that money to the State Comptroller's Office. Not all the banks did. Remember, if you're familiar with banks, we're talking 1930s, 1940s, and 50s. We're talking 50, 60 years. How many times did that bank change names? They could have changed names 3 or 4 times. So who has the money now? See, that's what's hard, is following that paper trail. But it can be done, but that's the difficult part that a lot of you guys are having. Because you know that, oh, my abuelita, my grandma was getting money, but how come we're not getting money anymore? Well, God, that bank doesn't even exist anymore, you know? So we need to go back, and we need to get them to open up some records, and we need to get them to start paying out. If they were paying back then, they should be paying now, okay? But now, as of 1986, what I'm going to talk about that, I have seen some of the data that the State Comptroller's Office received back concerning these unknown minerals. It didn't have that it came from Joaquin Chapa or La Sotovela or anything like that. What it did have is maybe a code number, or it would be like the name of the road, US Highway 1 or number 30 well, or something like that. It wasn't, or sometimes they even would put it to the actual property owner's name, but not the mineral rights owner's name. So it's very confusing. And that is why the unclaimed, when they had that commission for 1 whole year who did the investigation, that's why they said they could not determine whose money that actually belongs to. In other words, they know it probably belongs to the unclaimed money. A lot of it belongs to mineral holders, but they can't determine, okay, is this going to be part of the Cristobal Ramirez portion, or is this part of the Antonio Ramirez, or is this part of La Sotovela? They don't know. It's so mishmash. And as the state is not going to take the liability of saying, okay, well, I'm going to cut a check, a $1 million check to La Sotovela, and I'm going to cut a $500,000 check to Cristobal Ramirez. You know why they're not going to take that liability? Because what if they're wrong? What if La Sotovela should have only gotten $500,000, and then Cristobal Ramirez should have got $1 million? Then there's lawsuits against the state. So if they can't figure it out, they're not going to do nothing. And that's basically what they said. They can't figure it out. So what I would suggest to you is, yes, we need to get the state controllers, and this is one thing that the commission did say. They're going to start asking, they're making a requirement for the oil companies to start being very specific as to the legal description and even the GPS location of the money of where these oil wells are, where they're sending money into the State Comptroller's Office. So that's going to be wonderful. But that's good for the future. It has nothing to do with the past. So if you want to talk to the past, what I would suggest, do the research on your family, do the research on that land title information, and if you see where any of your family members had done any kind of lease agreements, if they were receiving any money from a bank or that was put into receivership, you need to start finding out what happened to that bank. And that's what we need to start doing our research. After you do your genealogy, okay? That's after you do your genealogy. Thank you so much.